somebody somewhere did important research, and a lot of effort went into making that number. So it's sometimes easy as a handicapper to say that you have a really big edge, but trust their research. They took a lot more time than you did to make the pick.
Welcome back to the Betting Public. I don't know why that made me laugh. Like, you get up, you're like...
By the way, you can edit this.
Oh, you're on camera.
All right.
Welcome into the Betting Public Podcast, Episode 3. And this episode, I have a special guest. He's going to be here weekly. Vinny. Say hi, Vinny.
Hey. Hi, everyone. I'm very happy and excited to be here, guys.
So, this is episode 3. I'm going to go over the first 3 episodes. First episode went horribly. We had Nick C on as guest, and I goofed up the audio. We're going to have him back, hopefully, pretty soon. He was really great, but because you couldn't hear him, it didn't go so well. We did win our picks in that episode, though. And then our episode number 2, we had Ryan A., and he was really good. He didn't know much about gambling or whatever, but he was actually he's just a really good story, and so we're going to have him on from time to time, and he was really good. And so that brings us here. It's been a little while. We've been in production, but finally, we have Vinny here in studio. And Vinny, go ahead and introduce yourself, man.
I am Vinny, the one and only. I'm actually a Da Vinci, believe it or not. I've known CM Rondo, or Chief, as I call you, right? I've known you for, going on 19 years. So we have almost 2 decades of friendship. We've worked together on many different ventures, but this is actually the one I'm most excited in because it's a topic that we already like. So we have a mutual interest for sports. We are always into investing and growing our money. And this is just another avenue to do it. You can have the best of both worlds. I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
So, you were going to talk to us about
handicapping yourself.
Handicapping yourself.
Yeah. Okay. So, I'm not a professional, but I've been in this field for about 2 years now. I entered as what you would call a public sports bettor, betting with my heart, betting on the teams that I like, picking the right pitchers, I didn't really have a strategy. So when it comes to handicapping yourself, I think it's really important, next to bankroll management. So you want to start off with a no-stress environment. If you're going to place wagers or bets, you probably don't want to have a lot of stress or anxiety going on in your life. No money problems, anything like that. We don't want anyone losing their house, their car. We want little Jimmy to get his sandwich. We want all that to happen. So whatever we tell you on this show, take it with a grain of salt because my friend Chief here, he's probably the professional, but as you guys may know from our Discord, which you'll get into later, I am Vinny Public, right? So I am slowly integrating myself into this field. I think sleep is important. No drugs or excess alcohol prior to placing wagers, and just maybe limit your bankroll management, maybe like 2 to 5% of what you can afford to lose in any given week or month. And I think those are very solid tips, very important things to take into consideration. If you're not handicapping yourself, you're basically subject to the books, and they will eat you alive, right? I think we'll learn that as we go along. I went World Cup 0-5 recently on one pick. We won't talk about what that pick is, but if you join our Discord, Chief will give you that information later, and he'll show you. But you're not always going to have winning days, right? So it's always important to temper your bankroll management. If you check out our Discord lifetime, You should be profitable.
What kind of picks are in the Discord? You have one. Can we talk about that one? What's the one pick?
All right, so I did have a pick on Iran. So I'm just gonna cut straight to it because Iran got slaughtered. And this was more of a public contrarian pick, right? So they were an underdog, clearly an underdog, but there was a stalemate going on in the first half for quite a while. So this was a live betting situation, or very close to a live betting situation. And what I didn't realize is a lot of these players for Iran were actually unhappy with their status with the team, or they were just unhappy with their own soccer federation in their country to the point where they didn't even sing their own national anthem. So that's important stuff. So this is like little information that you think is insignificant, but it's actually quite significant because if the players have a discord, right, within their own organization, I don't know if the books are taking that into consideration. You know, they're just kind of, you know, they have their own algorithms. They go with the flow. They do what they do. But this is something that happened real time that I didn't take into consideration because I didn't even realize it until the match began. So I think about 5 or 6 minutes into the match, I heard one of the announcers talking about this, and then they started showing video footage of the Iranians not standing or singing their national anthem, which at a world event is actually a big deal. So I'm not saying the Iranians are throwing the event, but it's something to consider when you handicap these events.
So I had a pick in the Discord too.
It won.
Mine last night. Memphis -4. The funny thing about this game was, so it came out -4. I jumped on it immediately the night before, and the next morning I woke up and the number had moved to -2.5. And yeah, I knew that I had made the bad choice the night before, but you know, actually, so everything checked off, all boxes checked off except New York. They had players that were going to be put in, right? And so that changed the whole dynamic where New York was really trying to win this game. Derrick Rose came back. They brought all their good players back. They were really trying to win this game. And it moved to -2.5. I went to plus money on -4 because I just kept hammering -4. So, okay, you know what? I'm going to double down a little bit. And, man, that game ended, you know, on 4. And it could have swung either way. You know, I was just happy to get out alive. I really was. It was one of those, like, I knew I made a bad bet, doubled down on a bad bet.
Same.
You know what I'm saying?
That's where I was at.
So I was really happy with that. But all the warning signs were there. Honestly, so the number ended at 4. They won by 4. The number at -2.5 was there all day. And if I would have been taking those 2.5s, I definitely would have won. But, you know, it was so close. And, you know, one of the reasons why I was on that was because John Morant was going to Madison Square Garden. And it was funny because that was the first thing I thought of when I started looking at the game. I said, I wonder if he really wants to play there. Like, that's usually like a place players want to go out and show out. Yeah, you know. And I had looked at last year's game, and I mean the top of the article was John Morant goes for like 36 points, dominates in Madison Square. They won by like 30 some points. So I just had this assumption. I'm like, oh man, you know, he really wants to go to New York and do the same thing again. You know, he didn't play like he did last time, but you know, that was the rabbit hole that I had went down on that pick, and I was just happy to get out alive. But you can find all that on Discord. You know, we don't have a pick today because, man, there's so, you know, we do this, you know, on a daily and weekly schedule, but I don't have any today for this rest of the week. But
I had a winning pick, too, that same day. Did you mind?
well, this was yesterday.
That? Yeah, but the same day that I had, I wanted to dissect one of my winning picks not just a losing pick, so I can learn from both ends. Do you mind if I...
Wait, so you had a win? You had a losing
The same
pick?
day. So the same day. And I was just giving you an idea into my thought or lack of thought process and how it led to a loss. Now, I'm going to give you an example the same day, which could also be found in the Discord. I took the Bulls over the Celtics plus 6.5. And if you had Bulls money line...
So that was like a week ago. Yeah, right?
This is the same day. It would have been, I believe, 11/21.
Okay. All right.
So not... Yeah, exactly, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, close to that long ago.
That was the last time you delved into...
Oh, that's another important thing. It was my very first day back in handicapping. So, like, I had taken some time off to tend to some personal issues, and that's an important thing to remember.
Yeah, but even though you came back, you still didn't go for like a whole week. It's good not to like just
go all in.
Jump all in.
You jump all in. But with this particular Bulls pick, so the Bulls at the time, they had won the second of a back-to-back versus Toronto. And then that was prior to losing 4 in a row. So if you want to talk about form, which I think is very important, form is very important and should be important to you, the viewer. So the Bulls were in bad form. And to give you an idea, the Celtics were in great form.
Well,
they had won 9 in a row.
Wait,
go ahead.
What does form even mean?
To me, form is how you're currently playing at the moment.
So you look at like yesterday's game and then you think that they're going to repeat it the next game?
Incorrect.
Okay.
Form is actually sustained activity over a certain duration of time. So some folks, it could be just what happened last night, like you said, the public, right? And to other folks, it could be a small 3, 4, 5 game stretch. Maybe you're coming out of a 3 and 4, which I know we're gonna get into in a little bit. But form to me is how you're performing real time, not just one game or 2 games, but a small sample, a small stretch. It's not the whole season. It's not half the season. It's not a quarter season.
So you're like a visual handicap. Like you want to see the team win and you want to see how they're playing and right.
It goes into picking the spot, which is something you taught me actually. So before I actually entered handicapping, I would go off of players, I would go off of statistics, I would go off of all the things that maybe you were about to say. But you taught me a lot, so I don't use that data entirely, so it's still there. It's important. You should not stray away from actual stats, but don't use it as your everything. You know, the goal is to find an edge. And in this particular pick, I did find an edge. So the edge was the Bulls were 0-4 prior to the game, bad form, and the Celtics had actually won 9 games in a row. Needless to say, the Bulls were a dog, but they were a live dog. And the reason why I didn't go as hard as I did on like the Iranian pick was because the Bulls are my team. They're our team, right? We love the Bulls. We can't deny that. We can't get away from it no matter how bad we want to. But it's important to remember not to bet with your heart. So that's exactly what I was doing on that particular day. It was a losing day. So in the future, I'm going to take my heart out of this, and we're just going to go with what the analysis says. I have my own algorithm. I know you probably do. You know, we're more sophisticated bettors now than we were a year, 2, 3 years ago.
I like to use the book.
That's the best algorithm. They pay guys to do it.
Right.
I'm not paying me to do it.
Well, that's why I don't like to look at form out too often. I like to really know where to book. Like, what do they want? You know, what number do they want to give me? You know, on that given day. You know, like today where we had Washington and Minnesota, and I thought, you know, Minnesota was definitely a short number, and you know, that was the reason why I didn't like form, or there wasn't any type of form that like would have put me on either side. You know what I'm saying? But speaking on that game's very interesting. It's going on right now, so we'll find out after this is done. But I mean, you have 2 teams, and here's a scenario. So we're going to talk about this real quick. 2 teams, Minnesota and Washington. 3 games in 4 nights, back to back right now. Okay, so this is their back to back game in 3 and 4. You're coming off of Minnesota with 2 non-covers, 2 losses, and then Washington, 2 losses, 1 non-cover, 1 push. And so I looked into this game, and I was, I had so many moving parts to this game, and I really wanted to bet it. And not I wanted to bet it, but I put a lot of effort into looking into it. Okay, because when you have these type of dynamics, it's really interesting. You had 2 what I would call tired teams. Now, I thought the line was short. I initially had Minnesota as like my initial lean. Saw that the book kind of was on Washington. The number was kind of short in my opinion. So I should have went with just Washington, but I was looking at total, right?
Okay.
When teams are tired, now if we're going to talk form, this I guess is a form question. This would be good for you. If a team's tired, they're playing 3 games, 4 days. Is that more likely to help them get the over or the under for both teams? If both teams are playing in the same position, what do you think?
That's a great question, and I actually don't have the answer. I always have myself asking all the time. Because what happens is, are we working with tired legs or are we working with fresh legs? And that's going to go back to coaching. So unless you're familiar with the coaching styles, because we all know Coach Tom Thibodeau likes to drive his lineup into the ground, right? So there's certain coaches like that are very hard-nosed. They give their starters heavy minutes. Then there's other folks. None coming to my mind off the top of my head. I'd have to, again, look into it. But there's other folks who like to spread it out, and they see the schedule, and they see the totality of an NBA season, and it's quite literally a strategic maneuver to them. I'd imagine the folks with the most talent probably spend less time managing the other half, and the folks who have less talent, those coaches have to spend a lot more time wondering how many minutes I'm going to give this guy, how many minutes I'm going to give this guy, especially when you're talking about back-to-backs, or in this case, it was 3 games in 4 nights. So I did no research on this game coming. Go ahead.
So dissecting these games leading up to this game is what you're saying.
Just dissect. You got to take everything.
Well, I didn't dissect the games
one
prior.
game at a time.
I didn't
match at a time.
I didn't dissect the games prior. This was just a general scenario. But I was really looking at a total. Because I had a scenario recently where one of these teams was in one of these situations and the other one wasn't. And I was able to pick out an under total. But I think that was because one team was tired and the other one was fresh. So you had one team being able to score and play defense versus the other team not really able to do either. And it led to a lopsided victory and an under. So in this situation, when you have both teams in both scenarios, I think it'd be pretty interesting. So far, from what I'm seeing, they don't play much defense and they like to score.
No, they don't.
So that was very interesting. But those are just, that's just the type of stuff that I think about on a day-to-day. Like how can we take a scenario and just give us a general direction and where we should be looking? Because in some of these games, it's more predictable total versus side. I generally look at side first and total, but when you get these weird dynamics, I look at total sometimes. But I guess we'll just leave off on that game. We'll see what happens.
Well, officially, we both got. We gotta. I know whether they're winners or losers.
Okay, so you took a little.
I took a public play.
You took a little public play right before we got on, and who did you take?
Okay, so for the record, I did take.
These are unofficial on Discord. We were just sitting here.
Unofficial on Discord. We were just sitting here going. Chief had actually put me onto this game.
Yeah.
Moments before I arrived here in the studio, and we were just talking out loud. So sometimes you got to put your money where your mouth is.
You really wanted to go up. You were like all over Minnesota.
I initially had no inkling on which way I was going.
See, it's so funny because
after talking to you and watching the score of the game, so let me just lay out the scenario. So, okay, so let's see. We had at 6. 636 roughly. It was a pretty close game. Now it's getting away, right? So the last time I checked, we had 58-44, and obviously Washington is up 14. Now getting closer to halftime, it was 3 minutes 52 seconds, 44-65. Oh my gosh, that's almost a 19-point lead. So I just want to open this by saying, at halftime, it probably looks like I'm on the wrong side.
Well,
but I'm on the T-Wolves.
Yeah, okay.
I am on the T-Wolves.
See, here's the thing.
And I got them here. Let me tell you what I got them at. I got them at plus 285. I also got them at, where are they at here? Plus 143. And I believe plus 180. So, right. I mean, I tagged them 3 times.
But here, regardless, is
down almost 20 points.
That was, my initial reaction.
The game's not over.
Then looking into it, clearly the book wanted you to take Minnesota. Yes. So that's why I told you before. Anyway, we'll see what happens. I hope you win. I really do.
Well, the price indicated otherwise to me. So that's another thing that's important to me. So when I determine before I make a pick, had I seen this price a little higher, maybe double, I might have reconsidered my bet and considered taking the other side. But part of, I think I don't work for the books, but I think part of their algorithm is, loss prevention, and they're trying to manage losses on both sides. They don't have a crystal ball. They don't always know the future, but they do have sophisticated folks who have extensive experience in this field. Some folks work for Y&B Mellon. Some folks work for the military. Some folks do forecasting on a professional level. So I think where you're going, Chief, is the right way. Start with the books. They're going to give you a grade on how they grade their picks. And don't take that with a grain of salt. Somebody somewhere did important research, and a lot of effort went into making that number. So it's sometimes easy as a handicapper to say that you have a really big edge, but trust their research. They took a lot more time than you did to make the pick. If you work a full-time job, which we both do, right? I have a kid. We have other things going on in our lives. Life is finite. You have a small time to make decisions. And these folks working for the books probably devote their entire lives to making the numbers. And to me, that is an edge. That is an edge that only they have. And I respect that edge. But it's up to me, the now semi-professional handicapper, right? Because I don't know. It's up to me to find an edge and to find my spot, pick my spot, and get in where you fit in. Don't do too much. If you win, you win. You lose, you lose. You have to trust the model that you created. And you're going to create a model based off intelligence from other intelligent folks.
All right. Let's move on.
Fine.
FTX downfall. Have you kept up with this?
Semi. You're the guru when it comes to crypto. I just have kind of a watch list that you helped me create and whatnot.
You don't keep up with the news at all, do you?
A little bit.
Like world news and all that good stuff?
Oh, absolutely.
Have you seen much of this FTX in the news lately?
Yeah, I know that Sam Freed got to keep $700 million, and it wasn't really publicized, and they made it seem like he lost his entire fortune because they were trying to create a negative spin on the crypto industry. They're just trying to make it seem as if it's just this, this vigilante way of making money, and the reality is it's probably the most transparent way of making money. But I don't like to talk, like, I have opinions and thoughts on this stuff. I do, just for the record. I'm not oblivious to it, but I just know that my friend Chief here definitely has a lot more.
Has the news been positive or negative on this?
Negative.
Have you seen a lot of negative news on it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So I don't think there's been enough. There's been there's really weird kind of sweep under the table type vibe to it. I mean, this is one of the biggest in history as far as fraud, and I think there should just be more to it. I mean, I don't really get it. I really don't understand. There should be people at his doorstep right now. And just for the record, I don't have any FTX. I don't have any account with FTX.
Neither do I.
You know what this okay, so this is just one of the situations that where like it really pisses me off to the point where I hear people, they come up to me, they're like, "Oh, I hear Bitcoin died or Bitcoin's not doing good." I look at it and I'm like, "Man, that's not even Bitcoin though." That's, you know what I'm saying? And you know, it really set the industry back so far, and it hurt so bad just to see like all those people lose their money. And immediately as it was playing out, it is still playing out. I mean, there's a guy right now who's like tracking them down in the Bahamas and trying to like interview them and stuff. It blows my mind. It's a story that you got to see it more. I mean, you got one of the things why we're talking about today is mainly the amount of media that has been covering this story in a positive, or maybe not a positive, but just not a super negative light. I mean, the guy, he's in the Bahamas right now. He's still, walking. He can do whatever he wants. He's not in jail, and he's not giving interviews. He's basically stole everyone's money, and he lost it. So now he doesn't have it, and it's just a really bad story. It's actually
just staying on the crypto industry,
well,
but in overall in its totality, I honestly still believe in it, and I feel like the fact that it's being publicized is like they're trying to delegitimize a legitimate.
It's completely taken me out of my whole entire game. It's like,
don't let it, bro.
Well, this story and just everything that's been going on, it sucks you in. I talked about this before. It sucks you in, and you feel like, like you can't focus on other endeavors because it's crypto this or crypto that, and there's nothing to even make in crypto right now. But it's so fascinating with the story and the continued coverage of this story and the non-coverage of this story that it makes you just scratch your head some, and it just keeps you locked in, really, if you were to follow it. But I've asked people about this negative news, and I've gotten some people that have said, yeah, there's been plenty of negative news like what you said, but I don't really think I don't think they've seen enough of the news that, like, of what I'm talking about. So maybe I would just have to bring forth, the fluff pieces that have been coming out, like on Forbes and stuff. Forbes put out a piece, and a couple other publications put out pieces, and it was just crazy. Like, I couldn't believe it, So that's on crypto. We won't talk crypto much on here until we have news. I mean, I don't have.
We could.
I don't talk much crypto as far as like breaking news. That's just not what I do. But I'll tell you what, if you are not interested in crypto,
it's hand in hand,
well,
right?
now's the time to actually, because everyone's so bearish on it, now's the time that you might want to consider, if not looking into investing in the crypto, at least looking into it, because we're experiencing something right now, and eventually it's going to go away, and eventually, there was a situation a long time ago at Mt. Gox, Magic the Gathering online exchange, and that was about 10 so years ago, and that was big, and people just forget about it, and then they move on. So I think that will happen in this situation. I think it'll be good.
I agree, brother. I mean, you put me onto crypto a long time ago. As you remember, I was one of those naysayers, and I was maybe more of a traditionalist.
Well, no, glad thing
I didn't want to.
I told you not to get in, but here's one of the things.
No, I should have got in when you told me to get in.
No.
Which was back in 2009, 2010.
No, that wasn't even when it was there.
Or 2011. Whatever year. It was a decade ago.
Listen, you would have been one of those FTX people,
Could have been.
Because that would have been a time where a lot of, people would have got in 2019. They would have saw, Steph Curry and Tom Brady, and definitely dove right. I mean, that was no one has actually ever came up to me and asked me what exchange hey, should I use, like, I'm a new guy, what exchange I should have used? But I definitely would have been like, yeah, FTX is pretty cool. I mean, I don't have it, but they seem pretty legit. I would use them. Turns out that would have been like the worst advice I could have given anybody, you know? So I never did, but like it would have fooled me. It would have definitely fooled me. But you don't have any picks for the rest of the week, right, Vinny?
No, I don't. But man, since you were talking about crypto, like, look, I'm not a financial guru or professional, but I will say this: the Federal Reserve has already decided what the hell they want to do with regards to crypto, and under the table, they're probably, I don't speak for anyone. I'm not a member of the Federal Reserve. I don't know anybody.
Is this a conspiracy theory? Because I love conspiracy theories.
Oh, we love this shit. We fucking love it.
No, is it?
Listen, this is not
you gotta let them know, man.
So, people can do their own research. ISO 222. It's not like major news. It's been out for a while. It's going to replace SWIFT, which is the current international banking system. So as we're integrating to ISO 222, there's players that have already been chosen, and you can choose to invest in those players and those mechanisms and possibly make a little money along the way. Now,
not investment advice, right?
No, none of this.
I wouldn't be doing that, but not investment advice.
I like those.
All right, hey, let's leave off on that because we got to get these games going.
Get the games going. We're all about growth, right?
Next week we'll be back. We'll have more games and more news. And yeah, thanks for coming then. We'll see you next time.